Hello, and welcome to the Carolinas Luxury Real Estate Podcast, Season 6. For all those new or returning to the podcast, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes. And please feel free to follow the link in this episode to all our past seasons and explore all the great luxury real estate content. On today's episode, we're talking about NASCAR's impact to the area. I'm your host, Sam Sparks, and joining me to discuss this topic is Amanda Speed, an experienced agent with Ivester Jackson Distinctive Properties, Christie's International, and someone who comes from a drag racing and NASCAR family. Thanks for joining me today, Amanda.
Hi, yes, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you on the show, and I'm really excited to talk about NASCAR's impacts on the area.
Yes, definitely. It's very impactful up here in Mooresville, the Charlotte area, for sure.
Absolutely. So real quick, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Christie's International?
Yes, so I grew up sort of in the racing world, been there my whole life, really. And I ended up having kids, so I couldn't travel as much. My husband still travels a bit. I've always been interested in homes. We've flipped homes, bought a lot of homes, sold a lot of homes, have some Airbnbs. And I really, once my kids got old enough to get off the bus by themselves, I knew that I wanted to go back into the racing world. However, it required too much travel. And my next second love was real estate. So I decided to go into that. And there's no better luxury brand in this Lake Norman area than Ivester Jackson and Christie's. So that's why I'm here.
Couldn't agree more. And I can imagine life on the road is hard with kids.
Yes. For sure. It's still hard.
It's still hard. Doesn't get easier, does it?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, great. So what was it like, Amanda, to grow up in a NASCAR drag racing family?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? It's different. It's not your typical everyday family for sure. My father has raced his entire life ever since he got out of high school. That's what he does for a living. My brother does the same, as does my brother's wife. They are all NHRA drag racers. So I grew up traveling the entire country, going to racetracks, learning about how racing works, learning to work on race cars, learning what tools work, because you got yelled if you didn't hand the right tool to my dad, So I just grew a love for that. And then back in the day, my dad was actually sponsored by STP the same time Richard Petty was still in the sport, who was sponsored by STP. So there was a lot of crossover there. So he came to some drag races. We went to some NASCAR races. And, racing is racing. You kind of have if you're in it, no matter what discipline you're in, you just have a love for it and a need for it. And so I kind of just grew up in that area. And I was never really the race car driver type. I was more the behind the scenes type. I kind of like telling everybody what to do, and I was organized and what you should say in an interview, what you shouldn't say, pre, post race things. So I got a degree in communications and then went to work into NHRA and then ventured into NASCAR, ran a Jim Beam account, managed some truck series drivers, a few cup, and then met my husband, who came from Europe to race in NASCAR for NASCAR and Red Bull. And then started managing him and still manage him, not as much as I used to. He's sort of got it under control now. But yeah, so I've, traveled the circuit for a few years. And it is an exhausting circuit, but when you love it, that's just what you do,
Oh, yeah. The things you put up with for love, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, and so I find that interesting. You talked about you're more behind the scenes, and there's so much to do behind the scenes. I mean, You even know how to work on cars. That's impressive.
Yes.
And
yeah, you had to learn when you came back from making a run and you had to jack the car up and take the tires off. Like, you better know what to do, because my dad's no joke. My dad's 70 years old and still drag races. He won this past weekend out at ZMAX Drag Strip here in Concord in NHRA. So yeah, you better know what to do. So we learned real quick as kids, me, my brother, and my sister.
Now, it's funny because your last name is Speed.
I know.
Is that maiden name?
Nope. So my maiden name is Smith. My dad's Ricky Smith. I married Scott Speed. I know. And it is his real last name, which is even crazier. So yeah, I took his name, and Yeah, my last name is Speed. It's super awkward sometimes when you go to like rent a car and they're like, wouldn't it be funny if you were a race car driver? And I'm like, well, my husband is.
Well, that's the thing, that there's not a better name. It's almost like, did your husband grow up doing this because his last name was Speed? It really makes you wonder, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Thank goodness he was good at it, right? Because man, if he sucked, he'd be like Scott Slow. They'd be like, what?
Yeah, be like, we're not kidding this guy on our team.
Yeah, we don't want him.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Gosh. All right. So again, grew up in the family, you married a race car driver from Europe. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like you did trucks, cup race day. I mean, you've done it all. So talk to us a little bit more about the inbound migration, to Charlotte for NASCAR. Why do drivers and teams make Charlotte area their home?
So what some people don't realize is more than 50% probably the NASCAR tracks are in the Southeast, right? So it makes sense for teams to be here because what happens is you race 36 weekends a year, technically 10 months of the year. And if you're not getting home till Monday and your truck is leaving on a Thursday, you've got to be close by. Yeah, okay, there is some West Coast races, and a lot of times teams end up staying out there. They'll send a hauler back to grab a car or two if one gets messed up and send it back out.
Mm-hmm.
But the migration here, this is NASCAR country, right? It's turning into race country, honestly, even drag racing teams.
Mm-hmm.
But this is NASCAR country, and the majority of the teams are here. 99% of the teams are here. And it started here, but the issue is every subcontractor for NASCAR, right? Whether it's someone welding your car together or building your car or forming your driver's seat or even building your shops, wrapping your car, everything is here now. Mm-hmm. So everyone is migrating here, not only, drivers and teams because teams here, but even potential drivers, right? Because if you're a potential driver and you want to get into NASCAR, what better place to be than here in NASCAR City, running into a driver, running into a crew guy, or even an owner for that matter, to get your name in the hat, right?
Yep.
So I would say that's why a lot of people are coming this direction, even pit crew guys. We have a pit crew school here in Mooresville. We also have the NASCAR Technology Institute here, where you can go to become a welder. You can learn how to be a mechanic. So It's not only drivers migrating here, it's, ex D1 athletes that want to now be the jack man on a cup car, right? You got to train and figure out how to do it. And they have all those schools right here in Mooresville. It's pretty wild.
I actually had no idea they had all that there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive the amount of stuff they have here for NASCAR drivers, crew guys, mechanics, everything, honestly.
So location, very important. Education, yes. Very important. So that practical firsthand experience. What else is attractive about the area for NASCAR families? Schools, lakes, what do you think keeps them here as well?
Yes. So NASCAR families are coming here as well, right? They're coming with their driver because say you have, let's say the majority of the drivers in NASCAR are probably North Carolina, born and raised, right? But there's a lot from California too, almost as equal. But the problem is if your wife and kids or husband and kids, if it's a female driver, because there are some female drivers, are living in California and your race team is here and you're coming here after every single race for crew chief meetings or training or whatever the purpose may be, you're not going to be able to see your spouse or your kids. So they're all coming here as well. And then, you have parents of drivers coming here and just everyone is moving to this area. The school systems here are fabulous, especially right here in Mooresville. I mean, my kids go to public schools and they're rated just as high as the charter schools here or the private schools here. The school system is amazing. The lake is amazing. Like who doesn't want to be on a huge lake, right? There's tons of stuff to do. You can even rent boats here. So you don't even have to have your own boat. There's companies that rent boats. So there's always things to do here in the Mooresville, Charlotte area.
Yeah, absolutely. So what effects has NASCAR had on the Charlotte area? And let's talk about how it actually generates up to $450 million a year. I mean, that's huge. Let's talk about it.
Huge number. So NASCAR's had a huge effect on the area just because, not only because drivers and crew guys live here, right? Because some of those drivers, they're making bank. right? They're making the big bucks. Not all of them, but a lot of them, which is, what's happening. And you have these mega mansions on and off the lake, right? Because drivers, when you're gone, like I said, all these weekends a year, when they come home, they want to chill. They want to relax. They want the best of the best, right? They want garages where they can store all their cars to have fun, or big boat docks to have, all their boats on and all their friends over, and these party houses, or even just big houses for their families, right? When they have friends come and stay. And it's generating so much money, not only because of them, but you also have to think fans are coming here. Fans are coming here for the races out in Concord. You have the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which is, they have 2 races a year. You have the dirt track. They have races a year. You have the drag racing track. They have 2 races a year. So not only are fans coming for that, and especially, so in May every year, they do fan days at all these organizations and all these teams. So the drivers will come out, do an autograph session. Fans can come, so they're buying hotels. They're buying airline tickets. They're buying rental cars. They're spending money at food, at restaurants. They're also spending money on fan gear. And so you're having all these people come here for all these races. And so therefore they're bringing in money, they're bringing in all the money. And like I said, everyone, pit crews, like there's so many, it goes so deep. It really goes so deep. It's not just pit crews and drivers, right? You have public relation reps. You have sponsor reps. You have hospitality reps. You have executives, VPs. You have owners. You have their families. Like everyone is involved in NASCAR. Like, I don't know how many times I've had a buyer buy a house or a seller sell a house, and I swear they are involved some way, whether they're in NASCAR, their brother, their kid, their uncle, their cousin, like someone is always involved. And then they venture here, right? Because you're 3 hours from the beach, you're an hour and a half from the mountains. It's an amazing area to live in. You get 4 seasons, right? A lot of places you don't even get 4 seasons anymore in America.
I don't know. Our winters are pretty mild. I would barely call that a 4th season, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I grew up about an hour and a half north of here, and we always had winters. I remember having snowmobiles back in the day, and now my kids are like begging for snow. And I'm like, what happened?
So again, it being such a big tourist spot, you said we only hold about 2 races a year at most of the tracks, the drag racing, the dirt track, and Charlotte Motor Speedway. What happens in between those races? Do they have smaller races? Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So sometimes they'll put on smaller races, or sometimes there will be tracks near here that put on races, right? But the big thing here is there are smaller disciplines of racing, right? You have the go-kart track here in Mooresville. You also have a track out past Mooresville, which is called Millbridge Speedway. It's a dirt track. So during the week, when drivers aren't racing in their real race car, they're at these tracks. Whether they're out driving on the dirt track in Millbridge 1 day a week during season, or they're out there helping their kid, right? Because all these drivers have kids and their kids are racing. So they're out there running those tracks. Or the go-kart track, there's garages at this go-kart track, and almost every garage is owned by a NASCAR or an IndyCar driver. There's a lot of IndyCar drivers here too. Oh, wow. And any fan can go rent a rental cart, right? We could go as a company. We should do that. We should go as a company. We could go rent rental carts, right? And you go out there and you pay to run a rental cart as a fan that just drove down from, say, Virginia for the weekend because he just wanted to see what was in the area. You might run into Kyle Larson, right? You might run into Ross Chastain. You might run into an IndyCar driver. Like, there's drivers that are always out there preparing and practicing for the next race weekend, or they're just at Millbridge hanging out because their buddy's racing or because they have a kid racing. So there's all these small races during the year that keep fans coming this way. Not only that, but we have there's lots of NASCAR activities, right? Not only the Charlotte Motor Speedway and the drag strip and the dirt track and these other small tracks, but there's tons of things to do here, right? You have the Hall of Fame in Charlotte, which is huge. Any fan can go there. Sometimes they'll even have events there where they have drivers, but you can go and you can sit in a race car in a simulator and drive yourself around the track, right? Your kids can go pretend like they're changing a tire in like the little kiddie area. So not only are you learning the history and you're seeing all these old legit race cars that used to race and used to win. But you
Mm-hmm.
have all these hands-on activities. There's movies, there's events, there's always something going on. And who knows, like you could go to any random restaurant, you might run into Dell Jr. in Mooresville. So people are always coming to the area there's so much to do, and you just never know who you're going to run into because everyone lives here.
Yeah. And then that's the funny thing, you're not paying attention and all of a sudden you might have walked by someone like
Yeah.
Dylan or someone who, if you're really thinking about it, you're like, oh, was that? But
Yeah.
you just don't even think to look for it these days.
No, and it's very common to be in a restaurant with a driver, and honestly, hardly anyone even bothers them because they know, like, you'll throw your hand up, good race this past weekend, whatever, you keep going,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
For
As
sure.
a fan, I'm a fan, and I've been in it. Like, I'm still a fan. I'll always be a fan.
Well, and funny story. So, I started working for Fox Sports NASCAR
Okay.
last year. So you kind of talked about how everyone here has a connection somehow.
Yes.
Even I now work for Fox Sports NASCAR doing their audio for TV.
Mhm.
Last week we got to see the new Hendrix car unveiled at the TV studio. And, it's just the people that you said come through the Fox Sports studio every week, every day. It's incredible. They're all here, to your point.
They're all here. And speaking of, the migration that we were talking about earlier coming here, not only are they all here, they're all coming here, right? And you're getting fans these last few years that were never fans before because there's such a diversity right now in NASCAR, right? I mean, Michael Jordan owns a team, like Michael freaking Jordan, right?
And one
Like,
Talladega.
yeah,
Like,
and one
what?
Talladega. And I actually reposted on my social media. NASCAR had posted it, and Michael Jordan had a ton of University of Alabama football players in a suite, and someone was videoing them, the reaction when the white flag came out and then the checker flag came out of Michael Jordan's team winning. And it's so cool because they probably didn't know anything about NASCAR, right, until maybe someone famous got involved, or maybe they started liking a certain driver. So it's so cool to see all these different groups and and everyone just come in, whether you're a guy, girl, regardless. It's super fun to watch all this happen. And like I said, and everything's coming here. I mean, Michael Jordan obviously is from North Carolina, but and they built they just got done building their huge race shop. I mean, it's ginormous. You can see it off I-77. And so they're employing tons of people, and those people are employing tons of people. And it's a big circle. You got tens of thousands of team members on each team that have to have a house, right? They have to be close to their shop.
Yep. That's awesome. Now, you talked about, Charlotte Motor Speedway, things that NASCAR has here. Now, the Hall of Fame Museum, one in town, isn't there also something in Mooresville?
So there's a small museum. There's a few small museums. Like there used to be the Richard Petty Museum on the outskirts of town. And there used to be like a Dale Earnhardt like memorial area, like you could walk through and do stuff on the outskirts of Mooresville as well. But in Mooresville, I do know there's like a North Carolina Hall of Fame Auto Museum. So there's definitely lots of things you can go and see here. I would say the biggest one though is for sure the NASCAR one in Charlotte. Definitely.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's plenty there's just so much stuff to do at that one. I mean, you could stay there all day.
All day. That's a lot of NASCAR.
That is a lot of NASCAR, but some people like a lot of NASCAR.
That's true. I'm even getting more interested the more I work. So I think it is infectious.
Good. Have you been to a race yet?
No, we're trying. I know.
You got to get out to a race.
I know. We've been saying it. I've only lived here about 4.5, 5 years. So I'm still fresh, but I definitely need to get there. I mean, every week working at Fox Sports, I'm like, man, I kind of want to go to a race. Why haven't I gone?
Yeah, you have to. You'll develop the need for speed.
There you go.
Yeah, it's once you go, like you're sucked in. Well, not everyone. Some people, it's not their thing, but most people.
Having a good time, drinking, eating with people.
Yes.
Why not?
The adrenaline, right? Like everybody likes adrenaline and competition.
Oh yeah. So talk to me about NASCAR's effects, on the Lake Norman and Charlotte area when it comes to the housing market. I mean, we already talked about how there are tens of thousands of people moving here. They need homes. I think the really exciting thing people want to know is the Lake Norman mansions. How has NASCAR shaped that?
Right? Yeah. So, like I said, you have these drivers that are making bank, right? And they're all living here because their teams are here. So therefore they have to have something nice to stay in. So
Hmm.
you have these drivers who are making money. So drivers, they have lots of money and so they want something to invest in, right? And what better place to invest than real estate?
Hmm.
So you're investing in these mega mansions, whether they're on the lake, off the lake, and they're doing it not only for their families and not only to invest in something, right? Because what else are you going to do with your money? I mean, some own NASCAR teams, so they have their money there, but a lot of people like the best thing you can really invest in your life is real estate. So that's what these drivers are doing. And not only drivers, right? Crew members, like I said, executives, crew chiefs. There are crew chiefs that are making bank too.
Hmm.
Um, so you have these guys and girls that are investing in these mega mansions, and it's because they want somewhere to chill that is nice when they are not racing. They don't want to have to go out to the neighborhood pool or have to go borrow someone's boat or even go to the bowling alley, right? A lot of these drivers have bowling alleys in their house. Denny Hamlin has a full size basketball court in his house on the lake, right? So some of these drivers, when they're home, they don't want to go anywhere. They just want to be home. They just want to hang with their friends and their families. So they're building these huge mega mansions, which is in turn, right, making the real estate market go up and
Hmm.
creating all these very expensive, luxurious homes. And even some drivers, they'll build luxury barn dominiums on top of their homes in another location, for all their cars.
Hmm.
But like I said before, you have so say there's a cup team. There's four series in NASCAR. You have Cup, Xfinity, Truck, and ARCA. So
Hmm.
each of these series has a minimum of 16 teams because each team can have up to four cars.
Okay.
And so you take these teams, Cup probably has around 16, Xfinity and Truck, ARCA, they may have a little bit more. But you have all these teams. All these teams have 50 to 100 employees. And
Wow.
that's not even counting like the people who own it or the execs. That's just talking about like pit crew guys, PR, drivers, all these people. So you got tens of thousands of people that have to live in this area.
Yeah.
So they have to buy a home here, right? Whether it's a small home, a luxury mansion, whatever, they're all investing into this Charlotte, Mooresville area, which is in turn has drastically changed our market.
Yeah.
Because without NASCAR, not saying that we wouldn't have a very popular, well area here in Mooresville and Charlotte, but NASCAR is for sure the reason for it.
Right. Which again adds that allure to Lake Norman of you never know who you're going to see on a boat. Maybe
Yes,
a Hornets
never.
player, maybe a NASCAR. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's Panther players that live here, right? There's Hornet players that live here. There's IndyCar drivers that live here. Some people think, oh, Indy's sort of like the racing capital of the world. Not anymore. It is now here in Mooresville, right? No one wants to live up north where it's freezing cold.
Count me out.
A lot of the race teams, IndyCar teams, they're coming here now too. So, everyone wants to be where there's four seasons and where you don't have to, if you want to go testing in the winter, you don't have to leave before it snows, right? In Indy, you have to do that. You got to time it right or you ain't getting out of there.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, the big fun topic is always to talk about the Talladega Nights mansion on Lake
Yeah.
Norman. Ricky Bobby, it just sold, I think it was last year again. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
2023?
Yep.
Let's talk about it because I looked it up before we got on. I think it sold for what, 9 million, 12,000
Mhm.
square feet. I mean, just a
It
huge,
went for a little less than that, but yeah,
did it?
it's
Okay, a little bit less.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that house is super cool, right? Like Talladega Nights, what a movie. Like it's still one of my favorite movies.
Yep.
Um, so that movie was actually shot. I think the entire thing was shot in the Concord, Charlotte area, Mooresville, even in Gaston County. They did some of the bar scenes in Gaston County, I think.
Mhm.
And the only time they went out of North Carolina, I think, was when they went to Talladega, the super speedway there to race some of the race.
Mhm.
But yes, so it's in Cornelius, real close to Mooresville. and it's a beauty, right? Well, Talladega Nights is an exaggerated form of how it really works in NASCAR, but it is extremely close. I'm not going to lie to you. It's real close, right? Which makes it even funnier for people that are involved in racing to watch it, because it's like, well, this maybe could actually happen, But the home is beautiful. I know it's been remodeled in the last few years, so I don't think it looks like the way it did in the movie, even though in the movie it was fabulous.
Yeah.
It's definitely more updated now. And the funniest part about all of it is a NASCAR driver bought the house last year. So, I mean, what better place for a NASCAR driver to live? It's pretty wild.
Clearly saw the value in owning Ricky Bobby's house.
Yes, right. And they're great. It's Kevin and Delana Harvick. They're great people. They have 2 kids that are super great into racing. Keelan will definitely be the next up and coming racer as he gets older. So it's super cool, I think, that they live in that house, because there's no better place for a race car driver to live than in the Talladega Nights house. I mean, come on.
Yeah, doesn't
All
get
backed up on Mountain Dew.
Right. Well, and they just put, I think it was $4 million into renovations to make it,
Yes.
the French flair. I mean,
Mhm.
just looking at the photos, I mean, it's exquisite. I mean,
It is.
goodness.
I agree. It's gorgeous. Like I've seen pictures from before, how the movie was, and then I've seen the updated version, and it is gorgeous inside and outside. Honestly, the outside, the pool area, the view on the lake, everything. It's a 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they even have 2 boat docks. Like,
Yes.
who gets 2 boat docks? Very rare.
Nobody. People are begging for boat docks. Like,
Duke Energy's like, okay, we'll give you 2.
yeah, maybe
Doesn't
they
happen.
bribed me a little bit. Like, we'll do a movie in this house and showcase the lake, but you have to give us 2 permits for a dock.
And they're like, done.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Where do we sign?
All right. Well, I would love to tour that house, but again, someone's in there now, so I will probably never get to see the inside of it.
Probably not. Maybe I'll get invited over soon.
There you go. All right. Well, that was good. So now, Amanda, it is time for the lightning round portion of the podcast.
Okay, here we go.
You ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. What NASCAR driver left and went to drag racing? This hasn't
Tony
happened
Stewart.
a lot. What was it?
Tony Stewart.
Oh, look at you. Good job.
He
All
flew
right.
my brother's wife home at the end of last year. She had a really bad wreck. And he offered his plane at the drag races to fly her home. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy. My husband actually goes up to his house next week for a podcast.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yep.
Wow, small world.
Small world.
Awesome. All right. Question number 2. What's the top speed of a drag racing car? Like, what's been the top speed ever reached?
I don't know if it's Top Fuel or Funny Car that has the record, but I think it's 337.
Oh,
337 miles per hour.
you were within 1 mile per hour. 338.
338. I knew I was close.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's good.
Yeah.
You nailed it. That's perfect.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I know. 2 for 2. Now, what car was banned from NASCAR in the 1960s for shattering speed records?
Oh, Lord.
It's a little tougher.
It is tougher. This is way back in the day.
The car you don't see on the racetrack anymore.
Oh my God, I have no clue. Was it like a specific car, or was it someone's car?
A specific car, yeah, make and model.
I would say it's got to do something with Ford or Chevy.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
I don't know. What is it?
It's a Dodge Charger.
Oh my God. I swear to God, in my head, I was thinking Dodge Charger, and I'm like, no, there's no way. I should have said it.
Yeah, you should have. You've been 3 for 3. All right, 2 more. You still have time to
okay.
Pretty good.
Rebound. Let's go.
Some Charlotte history. When was the Charlotte Motor Speedway built?
Oh, okay. So let's see if I can get this. Quick funny story here. So back in the day, before all that happened, I always said they should build a drag racing track there. And I was like, why are they not building a drag strip here? Like, this would be so genius. Everything's already here, all the hotels. I didn't have enough money to do it, but Bruton Smith did, and he did it. And now look at it. Okay, Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's a hard one too.
Yep.
Dang it. Should have researched. I didn't know I was going to get quizzed.
Well, that's why it's fun. Go ahead. Just take a guess. Don't have to think too hard. I'll give you a hint. It's close to the previous question.
I was going to say like 74, but I don't know. What is it?
1959.
59. Holy crap. It's been around that long?
I had no idea.
I had no idea.
It's like over 70 years almost. It's a long time.
Oh my gosh. I knew it was here in the 70s. I didn't know it was even here in the 60s.
Yeah. Now you know.
Oh, now I know.
All right. Last question.
Okay.
This is all about the Speedway. So how many people do you think can attend the Charlotte Motor Speedway? How many people does it hold?
Well, that's difficult because I feel like what it used to hold is different now because they've taken some grandstands out. 35,000?
Oof. So off. So off.
50,000?
95,000 people. Isn't that insane?
That is insane. I knew it could hold a whole lot back in the day, but a lot of tracks have been taking out some grandstands. Man, I messed up big time.
Nate, no, you still did great. Honestly, these were some tough ones. The ones that I thought you wouldn't get, you got instantly. So again, the drag racing, good job. You nailed them.
I need to brush up on my Charlotte Motor Speedway history, evidently.
But see, now you know. So if anyone ever asks, you know.
That's right. That's right.
Well, perfect. Well, once again, thank you, Amanda, for joining me today and talking about NASCAR's impacts on the area. It was really great picking your brain.
Yeah, it's great talking to you as well. Anytime you have any questions, just let me know. But next time I'm going to study my history.
Right. And real quick, Amanda, how can people contact you if they have questions or need help with real estate?
Yes. So you can contact me through email or phone number. My email is amandaspeed@ivesterjackson.com. Or you can call me, text me anytime, 704-965-9533. And I'm always available 24/7.
Perfect. And I'll throw that up in the video for everyone as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Amanda.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
If anyone wants more information about the firm, you can visit us at ivesterjackson.com. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.